Lesson 4, Chord Magic, unlocking right-hand chords and simple inversions. Chords are the building blocks of your favorite songs, and today we're going to master them. In this video, you'll discover how to play right-hand chords and explore simple inversions that will take your playing to the next level. Let's make some chord magic. In this video, you're going to learn how to play triads, which are 3-note chords, along with inversions and how to apply them with the left-hand bass notes. Let's talk about triads. So triads are a 3-note chord, okay? And they are the foundation and the building blocks of playing your favorite songs that you'll find on the radio or whatever records that you listen to. So first we've got what are called inversions. And inversions are different ways of playing the chord in different positions, okay? So let's start with a C chord. Very simple. You start with a C note, which we've gone through in finding the notes in the first lesson, and then of course doing scales in the third lesson. And then we're going to go to this note right here. We're going to skip this note in the middle, this white note, and then we're going to go right into this next white note. And then we're going to skip this white note here, and we're going to go right to this. So this is what I like to call the white note chords, okay? C is one of them, but there are also others. All right, so that would be called root position because C is the root of the chord and it's at the very bottom. Now let's try what's called first inversion. That would be where the next note of the chord is now at the bottom of the chord, and the note that was at the bottom is now at the top of the chord. So you're going to change position. Now the fingering changes as well. So the fingering for that root position was 1, 3, 5. And the fingering for this first inversion is 1, 2, 5. Got that? Now, what happens next? You can probably guess. Well, we've got second inversion. So now, this note right here, that is the second note of this particular inversion, but was the third note of the first inversion, now becomes the bottom note. And then this note now becomes a top note, and then C is now right here in the middle. Okay, so you see how those chords are all related? For root position, first inversion, second inversion, okay? And then if you go all the way up, that's root position again at the top with C. One more time, root position, 1, 3, 5, first inversion, 1, 2, 5, and second inversion, 1, 3, 5, again, 1, 3, 5. Now let's go to another white note chord, which is F major. Now we've already learned the scale to F. Now we're going to learn about the chord. So, starting on 1, on F, we skip a white note, go to the next white note. With 3, skip the white note, go to the next note. With 5. 1, 3, 5. Same thing that we did with C, with the inversions, is that we moved F to the very top, and we kept the other 2 notes. And our fingering changed to 1, 2, 5. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to move this note all the way to the top and keep the other 2 notes in the middle, which is 1, 3, 5. Okay? One more major chord, an all white note chord, which is G major. Okay? We're going to start on G. All right, so 1, which is your thumb, skip a white note and then go to your third finger, skip a white note, then go to your 5th finger, 1, 3, 5. Now we're going to, that's root position, now we're going to go into first inversion. So we're going to move the G all the way up to the top, keep the other 2 notes, it becomes 1, 2, 5. Same fingering as the C chords inversions and the F chord inversions. Okay, now to get to the second inversion, we're going to move the bottom note to the very top, keep the other 2. It becomes 1, 3, 5 now with the fingering. I want to take some time to really go through the chords individually, and then also show how you can smoothly transition from one chord to the next using inversions. Okay, so let's start very simply by just jumping from one chord to the next chord using the root position. So starting with C. Now we're going to jump to F. Now we're going to jump to G. Jump back down to F. Jump back down to C. Okay? Now, is there an easier way to move to F without having to jump your hand all the way up these 4 notes here? First, we have to ask ourselves, do the C and the F chords share any notes in common? And the answer is yes. They share one note in common, and that is C. If I play C, the C chord, and I play the F chord, you'll find that the common denominator is C. So let's keep this C right here, and let's use an inversion to find the F. So now we know that the F is here. Okay, and what's the other note as a part of the F? Well, we've got this A here. If we skip the white note in between the F and the A, then we've got our second inversion F chord right here. Okay, so we're going from a C chord to a second inversion F chord, using C as the anchor for both chords. So instead of jumping from here, we go here. It's a very simple movement, okay? Now, what about the relationship between C and G? What can keep us from going all the way up to here? First, let's look, do we have any notes in common between the C chord and the G chord? We've got C, E, G, and then we've got G, B, D. What are the notes that are in common? There's only one, and that is G. So we've got C, E, G, G, B, D. So what can we do to change the chord where we don't have to move our hand so much? Well, we're going to use G as the anchor, and we're going to just change the other 2 notes. So what are the other 2 notes in there? It's B and D. So if we kept this G here, and we move these 2 fingers down to B and D, then now we have a first inversion G chord. Going from a C root position chord to a first inversion G chord. All right? Which is much easier because your hand doesn't move, and you keep this G on your pinky finger as your anchor for both chords. Now what if you want to go from C to F, and then back to C, and then to G, and then back to C, but you don't want to move your hand a whole lot? Well, you're going to use the anchor notes for each of those chords. So you've got C, E, G, up to F, back to C, then down to G, then up to C. See how much easier that is than doing this? You're just staying right in the same position. Okay? Now what if you're not starting on root position C, but you're starting on first inversion C? Like this. And you want to move, between chords. You want to go to F. You're going to keep that anchor note. You're going to go to F, go back to C, go to G, go to C. Now we're going to look at the E minor chord. So you've got 1, 3, 5, E, G, B. Now what would the first inversion of that be? Well, you would take this note at the bottom and you move it to the top. You've got your first inversion. The fingering is 1, 2, 5. And then the second inversion, you would take this note at the bottom, move it up to the top, and you would come up with 1, 3, 5. Okay? Now what if I wanted to change from E minor to C, and I start on root position E? Well, what are the common notes between C and E? We've got C, E, G, and then E, G, B. Well, the common notes are E and G. So we only have to move one note, which is this one right here, and move it up to C. So if we start on E minor, then we go to C. If we start on C major, root position, and we want to move to E minor chord, we only have to move the C down to the B. Are you starting to see how inversions can help you play more efficiently? This is the only chord out of all of these that is not an entirely white note chord. This one has one black note, which we've been introduced to before, which is F sharp. Okay? Starts on D, and then you skip these two white notes here and you go right to the F, and then you skip these two notes here, you go right to the A here. That's your D major chord. All right? Now let's go to the first inversion of the D chord. You're going to move the bottom note all the way to the top, and you're going to have first inversion. Then you're going to move the bottom note all the way to the top, and you have second inversion. So, root position, first inversion, second inversion of D chord. All right? Now what if you want to move from D to G? Do D and G have any notes in common? You've got D, F sharp, A, and then you've got G, B, D. Well, they both have D in common. So we're going to use that as our anchor note, and we're going to move the other two notes. So this one's going to move up to G, this one's going to move up to B. Now we've got a second inversion G chord that we're moving to from the D. Root position D, second inversion G. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is adding the left hand to beef up your chord. So the most simple way to do this is to play the double of the root note at the bottom. So if I'm playing a D chord and I play the D at the bottom, here or here, or if I want to be really fancy, I expand it and play them twice. So now I'm tripling that note. I can do that. Now what if I want to play a G? Then I can do the same thing with a G. If I want to play a C, I can do the same thing with a C. If I want to play an F, I can do the same thing with an F. Now what if I'm moving from a C to an F to a C to a G to a C, but I want to use inversions and I want to use my anchor notes in order to not have to move my hand around a whole lot, but I'm also adding the left hand. Let's see what happens. Starting to sound a lot beefier, isn't it? It's starting to sound a lot more like you can get into playing a song from using these. So now you've learned how to play a C chord, an F chord, a G chord, an E minor chord, and a D chord, all in this lesson. And you've learned how to make them sound beefier by using the left hand, and you've also learned how to move more efficiently by using inversions for each of those chords. And I've taught you 3 inversions for each chord. Congratulations, and if you're ready to move on, I'll see you in the next lesson.